Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will start off by thoroughly apologising for the delay. First, my little brain couldn't understand that a bunch of settings had reset when my streaming software and all equipment updated. And then second, I've actually been talking to you for about 5 minutes myself, not realising I'd clicked one of the start stream buttons, but not the crucial go live button. However, we should finally be here and live for you people. It's Season 7, Round 7, and we are here in Singapore at the Yas Marina circuit. I can never remember the actual name of this circuit. One of the relatively newer tracks to the calendar, coming in the mid to early 2000s. Of course, a track that's seen its fair share of controversy, of interesting races, of course. Who can forget the Crashgate scandal that saw Fernando Alonso sneak his way with a cheeky little safety car caused by his ever so handsome and well-received teammate. None of them kind of shenanigans here tonight. I am your host and regular commentator for the Tier 4 this season, CRL Freefall, better known as Scotty D, Scotty Dodds, Scotty Freefall, and any other name you dare want to call me. I am joined, although he is not here at present, by the illustrious and well sought after Mr. Liam Carragh. He will be joining us at some point. He's just had to nip away to figure out a few personal things, but hopefully he will be back. It's not the Yas Marina circuit, it's the Marina Bay circuit. I knew there was a marina in there. Either way, we're about to see the first lap set down. It is, of course, Ferguson, a man that was in fine form, not just this season, but last week as well. We saw him have an almighty battle with this man here in the McLaren, Mark Wilson. Those two having a mighty duel for P2 for the majority of the Canadian Grand Prix. Unfortunately, Mark Wilson, with a little mistake, falling out of that contention. But the only man that was really going to win that race is unfortunately not here tonight. It was, of course, MUFC Harvey. He had a mighty showing in Canada, like he did seasons gone by there. Of course, he's a very, very strong track for him. But Mark Wilson, one of our contenders last week, is looking to put himself back in contention this week. A 39.2, just under a 10th behind Ferguson. But what a way to make your entrance. Full-time seat tonight for this man here, SUFC. I believe he is replacing the outgoing R. Jacko in that Aston Martin seat, and I'm sure their team will be very, very excited for that. SUFC, anytime he has appeared, has shown very good potential. And there is MUFC Harvey joining in. He puts himself top with 39 flat. His teammate Tofar, a regular here for this season and coming in as a reserve in previous season, he sees himself go P8. We're on board with Wiban, though. I've known this man for quite a long time. Luke H, I believe he is better known as. A 40.5, 9/10 of MKP, your championship leader, who currently finds himself in P4 in that Alpha Tauri. Now, there's a man here I love very, very much. I'm going to ride on board him as we get a little bit of a preview of the circuit we're around tonight. I'm really hoping Carragh gets back soon. I won't lie to you folks, last week was very, very tough on my vocal cords, just recovering from a little bit of illness, a little bit of not so wellness, you might say. So had to do 145 minutes, no, probably about 120 minutes or so, just shouting and screaming and just being an absolute little bit of a head case, giving you the commentary. Last week it was a bit tiring, so hopefully he gets back soon. But we're going to ride on board with Hedgehog in the meantime as he takes us around through what I believe that was the old Singapore sling. Of course, the tracks had a little bit of a remodel over the years or so. Up to corner number 14 now. I'm going to try and pronounce some of these corner names. This one, I believe it's Connaught. Carragh will probably be better this. 15 and then 16, the right-hander here, into 17. Oh, Esplanade. 18 I can do. It is, of course, Bay, and underneath the tunnel, we have seen in previous CRL history a few collisions, a few incidents around that corner there. Of course, the tight corners, 90-degree turns into the tunnel. Hedgehog, though, round in 22 and 23, keeping the car nice and steady up to the line with a 141 flat. Sees him go provisional P9. 3 cars they are all in the 41 flat, so already including one of them, CRL Murphy. But we do have, unfortunately, the first retirement of the session. It is AFL. We're going to see a little bit of maybe an endurance race here, of course. One of the longer, not track length, of course, but longer timed circuits. And we've seen Tom with tipped up and validating on the final couple of turns there. It's a very, very long lap time. You can see we're pretty much in the 140s here, and this is in qualifying. So you can imagine these cars, once they get fueled up and into race trim, it is definitely going to be into the 140s. Couple that with, I believe, 35, 36 lap race. We are in for a long haul here tonight, folks. And it's not quite the same as Tier 1 and Tier 2, is it, in Tier 4? There is still the same mistakes, but in Tier 1, Tier 2, normal race, they are separating their others by inches. There's a little bit more variety in this grid. We've obviously got a greater ability from people that are straight, brand new, first season into league racing, and some that are a little bit more experienced. Now, the normal millimetre and tenth gaps we'll see in Tier 1, they're not just the difference between P1 and P10 that you'd see in that division. They are the difference between life and death when it comes to your car tonight. Look how close and deadly these quals are. And, of course, there's some very, very tricky curbs here as well. Not a lot of flat curbs. Not too many sausage curbs, but still none that are really too forgiving. If you get your car, especially if you're running a little bit of a lower ride height, I'm not too familiar with the setup here. Again, I'm not your technical guy. I'm just here to keep you, well, try and keep you entertained and spout a load of nonsense and just be a little bit hyperactive. Spider Rob, though, is on a lap here. Very, very low on the ERS. Of course, not a great deal of straights there, as we see a McLaren facing the wrong way, thankfully ghosting. Hopefully we don't see the same ghosting issues we've seen in maybe races gone by. It could be very, very perilous if anybody does spin during qualifying or indeed during the race. Like I say, though, a race of attrition and a race that is not unlikely to see a sprinkle of not just Bert Mayland on his safety car, but of course the dreaded, dreaded rain. A very humid, damp condition out here in Singapore. And a very, very decent lap there by Spider Rob. A 140.8, 3/10 of Wuban in the Red Bull in front. That's not, isn't that the Red Bull? Yes, it is the Red Bull. My shades of blue. Oh, hello. Hello, Liam. Why are you coming through my phone?
Sorry.
Hello. Are you okay, Liam? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine, I'm fine. Just had to speak to the family, of course. But we're here now.
We're here now.
So.
Good stuff. I'm hoping everybody can hear you. I should be able to hear you now in my ears instead of steading through. There we go. We should be all able to hear you now. For some reason, I was disconnected from the call when I had that little technical blip of update and stuff, and it lost all the settings. But we're finally on the way. Good to have you here, though, mate. It's been a long Canadian Grand Prix and the part of qualifying in Singapore without you. It was a long old hole in Canada. I can tell you that. Of course, though, it was a brilliant race. One, you are kicking yourself about missing. We've seen some beautiful, beautiful battles. I've already touched on the Ferguson-Mark Wilson battle for P2, which we're seeing replicated here in the early stages of this qualifying. But there was also battles from Craigo and I believe Wuban in the mid-pack for about P6, P7, 8. And then you even had Ghost Angel 1, Hedgehog, and of course the legend that is Murphy, all battling out down for, I believe, about P13. It was just battles and action galore from qualifying to the lights out to the checkered flag. Hopefully a bit more of that tonight as well, Liam. It's a very opportunistic trick. Setup can be key as well. There'll be some maybe chancing it with slightly lower wings, looking for where we are on board with Doom Willem just down to the end of Sector 1, trying to get a run down in that DRS. But of course, with so many tight, tricky right angle corners, you don't really want to lower your wings any lower than you have to. A man that is lower on one thing, and that is the pole time round this lap. Ferguson at 1:38.6, he's improved by just over, or just under, I believe, half a second, sees him jump above SUFC. Mark Wilson and SUFC surely going to have an answer, and we can never mark out the championship leader of MKP02. Oh. You can... Rotation, you're a godsend from heaven. Let me see if I can...
Read the comments.
Oh, I can't. I was trying to do everything myself. I couldn't. You should be able to hear Mr. Carrig, Mr. Rotation now.
Hello, hello, hello.
There we go. I blame who... I don't know who makes it, but whoever makes the OBS software, they updated it today, and it's just ruined my life, because I've had to come on with 15 minutes and try and get everything out. To be fair, I should have been more organised, but... It's ruined my settings and my life. I was frantically dashing about just before trying to get everything up, but thank you, Mr. Rotation, for helping that.
So, I'm back again for the third time already.
To be fair, Liam, I started the stream and then realised I wasn't live, so we've both done it twice now.
Oh my god.
Touch wood, we're out of the woods now. And everything goes to plan. Oh, it's never simple at CRL.
Yep, always things going on, such as MKP finishing his lap, coming around the last final corners now, through the really tricky right-left chicane, very flowing, and the last corners as well. Long swooping left-hander, easy to miss it, to lose it. Sorry, might I say? MKP goes second with 38.9, 3/10 off pole. Not bad from MKP, and I believe he's leading driver standings, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's had some very, very solid showings so far this season. Of course, we always expect him to be up there and in the mix, but even your tier 1 champions, you know, your Wouters, your Fergs as such, they'll tell you even they have their weak tracks. Maybe not a weak track as such, but just not as strong as he's been previously. Still P2, pretty good from him. I'm interested to see though SUFC, Mark Wilson, still in the pits. MUFC Harvey, a bit of a late join. He's already found himself up in P5 at the moment. Interesting though, a second separating P1 and P5. Quite a big gap, that.
Yeah, and we found the skill gap already. Again, Singapore is really hard. And that's not sugarcoat this in any way, shape, or form. It is one of the hardest circuits to master. So, there's a lot of technical corners where it demands a lot of traction, and a lot of concentration throughout the corners, such as the hairpin that MUFC Harvey is about to take. Where else? Like the last corner, a lot of that's a technical corner in itself. So
yes, to be fair, I've not had much experience on this game this year, but I remember last season and even the season before, the amount of cars that would spin out into that left-hand wall coming out of turn 22, 23 just before the finish line. It was heartbreaking for some drivers. You'd watch them in qualifying, they were on an absolute tremendous lap, and then would just end up binning it at the last second. While you're saying that, I was trying to figure out what was going on, but Craigo picked up a 5-place grid penalty for a collision with Mark Wilson. Jumped on board with Craigo. They didn't seem to be too close together, so I wonder if Mark's maybe spun on his outlap, maybe coming out of the pits, and Craigo's just been a bit unfortunate with the positioning. Either way, not something we like to see, but I'm sure no harm, no foul type, well, not quite no harm, but no ill intent attention. MUFC Harvey, 60% ERS, and just what I was saying about spinning to the left-hand side coming up the final corner, he's done just that. Precisely what I was on about.
Okay, so Harvey being our little guinea pig, shall we say, for that corner. He's already proven to us that that corner is very dangerous. It's, well, not very dangerous, but it's tricky to master. I wonder during the safety car at the restart, will anyone bin it there? If there's a safety car, of course.
Safety car with maybe slightly cold tyres, and I was alluding to it earlier. It is a track just because of how tight technical is and how you were saying you need to concentrate for this, and it's a really long race as Tom with Tip Top has met his end going into the tunnel. He is out, or maybe not. No, that must have been in the pits. It was his teammate that was stopped in track, it looks like. Well, it can't be because Mighty Baguette's finished. I'm not entirely sure, but the car is... Oh no, Mighty Baguette is. He must have been on an outlap. Oh,
yep.
It's struggle for two big brains like us to figure this out, Liam. It's a real struggle. Ferguson, though, has finished qualifying. MKP has finished it. SUFC, his qualifying is finished. He has invalidated his lap. Mark Wilson and MUFC Harvey, the two in maybe prime position. More Mark Wilson to make a stunt at that pole position. He is up on his time, about to cross the end of Sector 2. He currently needs 6/10 on his best previous lap to take provisional pole. He is only 1.6 up. It would just about see him jump into P3. But of course, not quite enough to make it up into the top two, though. Not much.
Oh, and Cyril Murphy.
Murphy with a lap. I was not expecting that from him. Just showing that you can teach an old dog some new tricks. That is an absolute blistering lap from Murphy. A long-standing member, a fan favourite, in fact. Good to see him up there. Mark Wilson crosses the line, and it's only P4. Of course, Murphy jumped up there. Pretty solid qualifying from some drivers so far. Wuban will be the last to finish, and he does so in the pits. And I think we're in for a cracking race here based on this qualifying, Liam. Just under a tenth between P1 and P2. Just over 2 tenths between P2 and P3. And then the next three cars separated by about 5-6 hundredths. That's what you like to see at the top.
Yeah, that's pretty tight. Tight times, and well, it's a mixture, shall we say. Some are more closer than others. But yeah, it's going to be something to look forward to, I guess. Obviously, I haven't been here for the starter quali, so I can't really comment on if it's going to be a cracking race or not. So
I'm always hopeful with this tier, especially after last week. But there we go, Ferguson, the Northern Irish driver, taking...
Still can't hear us?
They still can't hear us.
Rotation?
No, we can hear you. I just came for a different reason.
Oh, alright, fair enough. But Ferguson, anyway, I'll quickly run through top of the pops here. Murphy, love to see that up there in P2. MKP, Mark Wilson, SUFC, MUFC Harvey, Mighty Baguette, Wuhan, Tomo Tip Top, Spider Rob rounds off your top 10. Rotation, great to have you here, mate, though.
Yeah, it's lovely to be here. I just popped in, just trying to say, have fun. Good luck with the commentary. It's gonna be hell for you these 36 laps. So, if it was me, I was gonna sleep halfway through. But you're
me
better
and you
than
both, Rotation. Me and you both.
That was one of the longest races on the calendar, not just in CRL, in actual F1. The short track distance with the long track time really just comes together in what is a marathon of a race. So join me and Carrick, and maybe Rotation at times, as we descend into what is sure some form of mental insanity as we try and cope with keeping up with all the action. Safety cars, potentially rain, and potentially some front wing changes are what we expect.
So as we take to the east, a lot of people starting on the hards actually. People starting on the mediums, as far as my race director is telling me. Oh man, a lot of them are starting on the hards. Not until P8 with Wubon, or do we see the medium compound appear?
I
So
suppose a track like this, where you expect a safety car at some point. Now, it could be lap 1, it could be lap 30. You expect that at some point, so being able to go for that long stint maybe gives you a bit more flexibility. It's what I like to call, and I'm sure if he does listen, he'll be very, very happy to know it's named after him, the 4-star strategy. That was his go-to strategy in Tier 2 last game. Maybe not the strongest qualifier, always started within the top 15 to the top 5, but he'd slap on that hard tyre no matter where he was if he could, and he would just run with it until a safety car came out and found himself in contention for a podium, if not the win. And it seems all but 3 of our drivers are going for that strategy, those 3 being the Maverick, June Willem and Wuban. The 2 Red Bulls both opting for the medium. There's the expected pit stop strategy. Medium hard, you've come to know and love it on this game, or a hard medium soft. Sorry, the softs even last game, Liam, they were horrendous for tyre quality and length. I think they're going to be even worse this game. 2 laps maybe.
No, not even. They'll burst halfway through your outlap. I think that's how bad they're gonna be.
It's you're lucky to make it out of the pits on the softs before they start to overheat and disintegrate into absolute nothingness.
Disintegrate is very, very generous, considering this track.
I mean, the only benefit is it gets plenty of rubber down in that first sector very, very quickly. So maybe makes it a bit grippier for all the guys on the harder options.
Oh dear. Oh.
Although, that's I do respect the 3 going for the gamble on the mediums. A timely safety car could really spice things up for them. But sorry to jump in there, Liam, what were you going to say?
You brought back an old memory just saying the option tyres. So back in the day, the softs were known as the options, and the medium and hards used to be called prime tyres. Not sure if you've been watching F1 that long, but to whoever's
been about for generations now, Liam. I'm a bit of an old hand.
Compared
to some of you young boys, anyway.
I mean, yeah, when we have 13-year-olds roaming around the server, it's kind of hard to relate to them in terms of F1. But the drivers are making their way to the grid now.
Yeah, definitely.
And Scott,
I could remember the days of Barrichello and Heikkinen.
Bringing back old memories. But Scott, remember that deal we had yesterday?
At the very start. Sir. Yes, sir. Don't you worry one bit. I've been planning a little bit. Those of you that have maybe seen some viral clips of League Racing Online may know that this is a little reference to an absolute legend in the community, I must admit. But it is 3, 4, 5 red lights. Now we are underway for CRL Season 7, race number 7 here in Singapore. Ferguson, MKP and Mark Wilson all getting a good start, getting the jump on Murphy. He's down to P4 already. There's a car around already, Liam. I believe
that's MKP.
MKP getting a good start from him and already round at the back. And Ferguson has jumped the gun and is well out of the stable already. 1.4 seconds clear. How was that for you, Liam?
That's got me rolling.
You speechless. That's how good it was. Mighty Baguette though, having a little sniff on Topher. AFL having a sniff at him. Further back, Turbo Tip Top and Craigo squabbling for positions at the end of Sector 1. The 2 McLarens having an almighty start up to P2 and P3.
Oh, and there's a spinner, Turbo Tip Top. Sorry.
Oh, you're quite right, Turbo Tip Top. I seen an end plate come off one of the cars behind. I believe that might be the Red Bull of June Willem. I could be correct. And we've got our first DNF. That's at the Singapore Sling. That's a stranger. He's went straight on at the Singapore String. That's like a brake failure looking incident and a VSC by the looks of things, Liam. No safety car out.
I doubt it was any of his fault. There was a lot of cars congregated at that one area. I think there was about 6 cars in about that corner. So yeah, a bit unfortunate for Mighty Baguette, but through the Singapore sling, you don't see much retirements there often. So
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange place to retire. Can we just... I'm just not as well. How is the front three? I know we're under VSC and the gaps might pull out, but even looking at the radar, they pulled out quite the gap on P4 Wuban. SUFC is into the pits. It must have been his front wing that got taken out by the Thomas Tip Top incident. It just went from bad to worse for him as he's picked up a 5-second penalty coming in to the pit. Spider Rob Craigo also doing it. Ghost Angel 1 getting a penalty as well on the way to the pit. We've got 5 pitters at the end of lap 1 and 1 retirement, Liam. This is really living up to the chaosness of the Singapore Grand Prix, but we are back under green flag racing with a yellow flag in the first part of the track for Jim Willem having a spin. And we're only at the midpoint way of lap 2 and I'm already exhausted.
well, welcome to the streets of Singapore, where the city never sleeps. Although that title does belong to a certain other country or city. I'm not sure. Anyways, that's irrelevant. Yeah, it's quite crazy that the front three already pulled away from P4 of Wuban. But Wuban, who's got a great start actually. I think he was down at P8, P9. Somewhere along those lines, and now he's up into P4. So some luck coming his way for the Red Bull driver.
Yeah, Wuban starting off P8, he's made up 4 positions early on. AFL though, the big gainer in this initial lap and a half, he's up 9 positions already. P16 to P7. Topher Hedgehog both up 5. MUFC Harvey Mark Wilson, of course, only gaining 3 and 2. But what a 3 and 2 positions to gain, putting them on for a double podium. The McLarens as it stands. Yellow flags at the back of the field. That's Maverick having a spin on some cold tyres. It is again, it is one of those tracks where the tyres can heat up quite quick and quite roughly bite you.
Sorry to interrupt, but Ferguson and Mark Wilson are scrapping into turn 1. Mark Wilson down the inside gives a bit of room for Ferguson, and then MUFC Harvey coming out of nowhere, taking the position away from Mark Wilson. The 2 McLarens showing no love for each other in the opening laps.
No team orders at McLaren, it seems. Of course, DRS now enabled. We see the 2 McLarens' rear wings open nice and wide. You think a little bit of teamwork would go a long way here, just to dissect the Alfa Romeo of Ferguson, get the 2 in front and try and pull a gap out ahead, but no love lost at this early stage. Both on the hard tyres on the same strategy. 2.9 second gap from Wuban to the front 3. Of course, Wuban on the mediums. Expect to make him, you would expect anyway, for him to make a little bit of inroads over the next lap or so. Ferguson though, just on the cusp of breaking that 1 second DRS. This could leave Harvey a little bit vulnerable to his teammate behind, but of course they should. He has not got the DRS, so expect Mark Wilson to go for a move on Harvey here. Not quite able to pull it back though. Maybe just showing a difference in setups there.
Yeah, well, the setups either way are very high wings. I had a look at them myself, so very high spec wings, but again, there's slight differences such as ride height that can affect the straight line speed of these cars, and Mark Wilson and MUFC Harvey clearly showing the 2 different setups, shall we say. And there's another yellow.
Spider Rob, it seems. And there's a big spin for MUFC Harvey doing what he did in qualifying. Spinning out on the exit up 23. He is dropped down a few positions. That front wing seems to be intact, but he has lost an almighty amount of time. Another yellow flag, it seems, just behind him. I'm not quite sure what that's for. But our first casualty of the front 3 losing it in that final corner, and that is playing right into Ferguson's hands. He's sort of lost them 2 that were keeping DRS trained behind him. And he's now got a chance to break the second and push away from Mark Wilson. Good to see though, there's plenty of efforts at the fastest lap coming in thick and fast though, Liam.
Yeah, it is nice to see the purple times coming in. And that low downforce setup, or lower downforce setup, shall we shall we call it, for lack of a better term. Not proving any dividends for MUFC Harvey, unfortunately. But we know that he has the pace to catch back up to the top if his tyres are still intact.
Absolutely, a very, very pacey driver on this grid, of course.
I cursed him! I
Yep.
cursed him!
That is the God-given curse of the commentator coming full effect there, Liam. I'm surprised that's not at least a VSC. Race control just deciding, he's off the racing line. He's over in a little corner. It'll be fine. It's still green flags, but
I'm sure at the McLaren camp they're not going to be too happy with MUFC Harvey's crash. But
definitely
that's how it rolls sometimes in Singapore. Unfortunately, it is one of those DNFs that could be very common later on in the race. However, back to brighter notes, I guess. Mark Wilson just out of touch with Ferguson for DRS. I do not expect this pace from Mark Wilson at all, considering that, he's usually down the midfield. So it's really nice seeing him up the front tonight.
Definitely. First 5 races, I believe it was, like you say, kind of midfield. He was always there and thereabouts, but never really one that was showing sort of star potential. Canada last week, battling out for P2 with the man in P1 at the moment, Ferguson. These two had a great, great battle. It was genuinely tier 1 level quality. They were side by side, switchbacks, trying each other with the strategy. It was brilliant stuff to see. And he's come here again in Singapore, did that. You get that sometimes, you'll know it yourself, Liam, you just click, and it's just like, you maybe realise something you've not been quite doing as good as you can be, and you realise, if I do it this way, it's so much quicker. And maybe it's been one of those epiphanies for him. Ferguson, we've seen, had pace throughout the season, so if you're keeping pace with him, you're doing something right. And of course, he was up there mix. I can't exactly remember who it was, but it was another pacey driver. So a good little bit of form for Mark Wilson, not just pleasing for him, pleasing for the McLaren camp. I would update you on the constructors' standings. Unfortunately, there seemed to be a little error with pulling through the points, as it remained the exact same as last week. So hopefully Mr. AJ Wuhan can get on that and get us updated pretty soon. MKP very close to the back of the Aston Martin of Topher here, both on the hard tyres, both on relatively decent ERS, of course. MKP going to have the DRS assist here, Liam.
Yep. MKP, a very pacey driver, current championship leader as it stands at the moment. MKP, I mean, what can I say about him? The first few opening races were very, very impressive, and I hope that he stays for another season and gets into Tier 3. And same goes for Ferguson.
There's definitely, like, Tier 4 is always, don't get me wrong, there's a few drivers that are, we've got a full course caution here, Liam, just to jump away with that. Jim Willem has retired on track. That is on the initial turn to the first DRS straight. I believe as well, is that the safety car coming out of turn number 3?
Is.
It is indeed.
Yes.
First safety car of the night, lap 6.
I would say it's a Renault, but, Renaults don't exist anymore.
Whatever. I've just twigged your reference there. That took longer than I would admit to say. I did mention that, I believe. It might have been in my first intro when it wasn't live. I did mention something along them lines, but of course, yeah. A relatively new track compared to some, but not one of the newest tracks on the calendar for maybe newer fans especially. Of course, there's a few tracks, Mexico, Imola, that have came back that were historic. But for the new brand spanking tracks, it's one of the sort of older ones. But it's got just enough history now that it's got its little controversies and its little quirks. And you're just hinting on to one of them there. Wuban, 5 laps in the mediums, he's decided safety car is time to pit and change. He's probably going to come back around about P10, P11 by the time he gets on. But the hards, just about will go to the end at a stretch. Of course, a couple laps under safety car will help them, so he shouldn't need to stop again. It'll be interesting to see his FUFC Prego or Ghost Angel 1, or of course the Maverick choose to do so as well. I was going to say a point there, I can't actually remember. Oh, I was going to talk about the early part of the season. That's, of course, in the championship. You got me started on that, of course. After Canada, MKP 38 points clear of Ferguson. So no matter what, he will, of course, leave here top of the standings. 31 points, technically, if you include the fastest lap, is, of course, available. The battle for P2, though, very, very tightly contested between Ferguson and AFL. The two of them, AFL, of course, he's been about for a while. He was involved in the championship fight last season. He was a mid-table, I believe, driver the season prior when, of course, it was the J. Wills Ryan Mills saga. He was second fiddle to Hedgehog last season. And at the now, he's in the mix again. But it seems as if just unless he can get a little burst of pace and keep the consistency, he might again fall into that always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And I'll take that for him because he is Armani AFL. A genuine nice lad and a lovely, lovely driver that's been here for a few seasons. But Ferguson and who was the other one? Of course, MKP, two newcomers coming in and showing him how it's done. It is a good grid this though, Liam. A good mix of age, beauty and maturity.
Yeah.
Maybe not in that order though.
Well, as you get higher in the tier ranks, the age and maturity seems to lower quite substantially. But no disrespect to any of them.
I would argue definitely tier 2 is a very, very... we've got an average age in tier 2 of about 46 this season. I think you'll find.
Oh dear, surrounded by... Okay, never mind.
But yeah, and touching that as well, you know, we're seeing a couple of drivers probably getting ready for the tier 3 jump. This is, of course, tier 4. There's a lot of drivers have started off here. I can list many. You've got myself, of course. You've got drivers like J. Wills, who made it from tier 4 to tier 2. Technically, Farrell Fury, a relentless driver, started off in tier 4 on his wheel when he switched to wheel. I, of course, started here on pad and wheel. Then you've got lads like, I believe 4-star was in here, McConey. Murphy's been up and amongst tier 3 at times and scoring good points in there. There really is, you know, just because you're in tier 4 now, it's a chance to learn the basics, refine some skills and get ready to the sort of more complex, closer battles that you get in tier 3, tier 2 and then ultimately tier 1 to go. In fact, I think I'm Nico, a very, very pacey tier 1 driver around about the season 4, season 5 mark. Started off in tier 4 somehow and quickly rose up through, so definitely an opportunity to bank on some potential and we're definitely seeing it this season.
Yeah, I mean, I have high hopes for these drivers, or for the championship leaders especially. They seem to be no strangers to winning anymore, especially in this tier. But yeah, just a lot of potential here waiting to be exploited and used.
Just that little hidden tap in, don't be surprised. Especially, of course, as some of these drivers maybe get more used to the game for the time season 8 rolls around. We don't see a few of these making the jump to tier 3, maybe even tier 2. It'd be lovely to race a few of these guys, of course. I might end up in this tier myself, who knows? Could be you commentating over me next season, Liam. We'll have to wait and see, but it's of course safety car in this lap. And since I've just realised, I don't think when I've been here you've done a lights out, I'd like for my humble co-commentator to take us through the safety car restart. I want to see
very humble indeed
how I did it.
So Jesus. So Ferguson weaving the tires, getting heat into them, energy into them, albeit very slowly. Not doing him any justice, I don't think. But Mark Ferguson's already bolted away. Will he suffer through the left-hander? He's going wide, and we're back in the game. And Ferguson coming out of nowhere, taking the position away from Ferguson. They're still scrapping out the back. But yeah, I think Tomo Tip Top, he's lost it at the end of the left-hander. And what an amazing restart for Mark Wilson. Totally unexpected.
That is... I'm speechless. I'm hats off. That is genuinely, I think, one of the best moves I've ever seen. He almost left himself caught sleeping, pounced at the right time, used the safety car line to perfection, and got the move done just as pretty much as soon as he could.
He's,
Wow. I
he's
have no
got
words.
on.
Overtake of the
He's
season,
got
that
on.
is, Liam.
Yep. Whatever your man, the commentator that your own really loves and loves to play all over and over again, that's playing through my head right now for Mark Wilson. Some of you will know.
When I say really, I really mean really. That was a really good overtake. I think that's the
really.
thing you're referencing. Hedgehogs had a spin on the exit of the penultimate corner of, or the final corner of Sector 2. He's dropped down to P12. Hopefully that car is still in one piece, but when we say really, we really do mean really. That was a really good overtake.
Yeah, it really was. And it's Mark Wilson taking the lead.
He's not just taking the lead here, he's pulled out. Oh, as we see a big collision for Tofar into the wall and almost missing the pit entry. In fact, he's went to go into the pit entry, no front wing or no partial front wing, and he's run over the curb and he's had to do another lap. This is going to cost him huge time. Big respect though for not just jumping in and doing a legal pit entry for him. Not the great race we've seen or we expected maybe for the Aston Martins at this stage. Wuban was in the pits. FUFC, he's had to come into the pits, so it's not been going great for them, and Wuban getting past Tofar with that wing damage. A few cars interesting into the pits on the safety car restart lap again. Turbo TikTok and Ghost Angel 1. Not going great race for them, of course. 12 drivers here will get points as long as they finish, and there's only 14 left in this race, so regardless of what happens, Liam, stick in it, stick at it, you might get something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Ruben's already pitted for new hards, so he's probably going to the end of the race at this rate.
I would say so. Pitted pretty much on lap 6 or 7 when that the safety car first came out, so just about 25 laps on the hards. It's definitely doable.
Perhaps some foreshadowing with the mediums not lasting long at all.
Perhaps Craigo and the Maverick both on 8 and 7 lap old mediums respectively. Of course, neither of them started on them on lap 10 here. Craigo making an early pit stop then, catching back up due to that safety car. He's going to have a little bit more pace over the hards, but that's going to peter out as the laps go on. We've got a spin in the final sector. I believe that is Maverick. He's already a lap down, not having a great race tonight.
Not the most...
It is.
Yeah, not the most inspiring race for some of these drivers.
I can really feel for these drivers because I can hands down say, heart on chest, this is the worst track, in my opinion, to drive. I despise it when we come here. I look forward to every pre-season seeing the calendar and seeing its non-inclusion within the calendar. Of course, there's been some great races around here in CRL history, but there's been some horrendous ones. I can give you a little bit of personal experience around here. What a race we had 2 seasons ago in Tier 2, where it wasn't really about who was the quickest, it was about just who found themselves in the right track position. It started out as a dry race, then it went to full wets, back to inters, back to full wets, and then back straight from wets to dry. It was incredibly taxing, mental, and just an all-round a bad time because it didn't matter how quick you were. You just couldn't overtake. So I found myself maybe the 15th fastest driver on the track, currently riding about in B5 with 10 cars behind me, just frustrating the life out of people. It was it was an entertaining race in one way or another. So
different generation cars, of course, and different weather conditions.
It really played havoc. Looking like clear night sky here tonight, though. no rain predicted, but it is a shame as well. I know we like to have a little dig at Codemasters sometimes in the Code Clubs here, Liam, but I wish they would give us some sort of weather preview. Wish we could see what are the chances of rain, when it might be coming, what kind of rain is coming, if it's heavy, if it's light. But because again, it is one of them tracks, it takes so long, and when you add in a safety car, rain that maybe has a chance at coming at the end of a normal race has got an increased chance of coming at the end of this race, because again, it's been what, near enough an hour since we started qualifying, and we're only on lap 12.
Welcome to Singapore, ladies and gents. And I feel sorry for those that are going to be staying up late in the real life Singaporean GP this weekend and having to witness all 62 laps in this track. So
It's going to be a long one. It is going to be a long one, not just for the drivers, like you say, but for the fans as well. Of course, more bang for your buck in that sense. Probably a great race to go and watch just because of the action you're going to see on the track. But
or maybe planned conspiracy theories. Or, sorry.
well, yeah, there is, like you say, there's been its dose of action, karma, and conspiracy around this circuit. I believe, was that 2007? Am I right in saying, Liam?
8.
Was it 2008?
It was between. Yeah, go on.
That was the first year on the calendar, or was it 2007? Okay. I'm not great
2007.
with the dates. Yeah, 2007 it started, and then 2008 we've seen Mr. PK unfortunately crash his car at a time that just so happened to benefit his teammate.
Flavio Viatori, the mastermind behind it all. I'm very sure, anyways. So, yeah, it goes to show that this track has a lot of history.
Absolutely, it was a very interesting time in Formula One history as well, because you obviously had that conspiracy going on, and then there was the McLaren Spygate going on at a very similar time as well. The sport's kind of tamed down in the conspiracy and the secrecy department compared to years gone past. It really was less of maybe a circus on track and a circus off track at times.
Well, these are the things that you don't hear about anymore. On the more brighter notes, we've seen 2018, the pole time for Hamilton, or the pole lap, one that many fans gush over for whatever reason. A very impressive lap from a car that was third fastest on that day compared to the Red Bulls and Ferraris of that era, and Mavericks retired in the pits. So, yeah, very unfortunate. It wasn't his day. Sometimes you just gotta keep your head down and move on to the next.
He's not retired in the pits by the looks of things, because we've got a full course safety car. I wonder, there's not a car going around that
crash
part.
gate.
There's not a car going around that part of the track, but that looks to me just based of what we've seen in past and seasons gone by, that he's maybe lost it on the exit turn 3, similar to what we see MUFC Harvey do at the early start of this Grand Prix. So that's going to bunch up the pack again. I must admit, I'm a little bit disappointed. I was on board with MKP, Ferguson, Murphy, Mark Wilson, and speaking of MKP, he is jumping into the pits. 12 laps on those hards. Very interesting call. Medium shouldn't go to the end, unless, of course, he is the Sergio Perez of CRL Racing League. That's a double meaning, doubled up there. An interesting call, but they were in a very good battle. There was only about 3 seconds separating 4 cars. P2 had DRS on P1, P4 had DRS on P3, but he has pit for mediums and he's only lost 1 position, so realistically not the worst strategy call ever. I'll wait to see how this pans out later on, maybe banking on a later safety car. A few drivers on the softs, it'll be interesting to see what they do, but another twist in this Grand Prix, and we're not even at the halfway mark.
Yep, we are not, and I think we're best off looking forward to what's going to happen next in this race. Maybe we can draw up a little bit of theories while we're here in the commentary booth. Okay, I think the soft runners, Tomo Tip Top, I'm looking at you. I'm looking forward to see what you decide. And he's staying out. He's not pitting for the hard run mediums at the moment. I'm betting that your tires might make more than 5 laps. I'm gonna be dead honest here.
Yes, I can remember. Was it last season? The strategy was, of course, to do, or last game, sorry, not last. Well, last season's well, I suppose. Was it a soft hard? Was that not one of the viable strategies? And it was about do 7, 8 laps on the softs, pray that they don't puncture on lap 7 or 8, and they do hards to the end. And that was one of the viable options. Of course, medium hards, the other viable option. So, tyre wear, tyre heating worse in this game than we've seen last year. Those softs, when they're struggling to make 6 or 7 laps last game, I think they're about dead after 3 here.
Yeah, it's gonna be near impossible. Someone picked up your tires.
That's a really, that's a, I hate to call him out, but I've got to, that's a McConey level incident there. I hate to do that. He's had a few incidents in recent races in Tier 2, losing under safety car, and he's joined by Tomo Tip Top. Maybe it's just a Mercedes thing, but just not that nobody wants to end a race early, but you don't want to end the race early by crashing out under a safety car.
And sometimes it's just one of those things, I guess. It's one of those unfortunate league racing moments where you embarrass yourself in front of the stage. It happens to everybody at one point.
Oh yeah, I think we can all look back and say that was a really, really, really silly thing that I did there. We've all got our moments throughout the kind of our history in league racing. Everybody's done something at some point. I suppose doing it at a track like this, it's a little bit less embarrassing. It is a high attrition track. It is a really, really tricky track to. It's a tricky track to do one lap on, let alone 31.
Absolutely. Anyways, we're back with only hard and medium runners now, so MKP on their freshest tires actually with the mediums. Very interesting if it'll go to the end or not, and it'll be very tight, I think.
If we don't get another safety car or even a VSC, I think the battle between Wuban, MKP and AFL, and Craigo as well to a degree, will be quite a tasty one. Of course, MKP, AFL, 1 lap old mediums. 16 laps, it's not, to be fair, it's not undoable. It's probably just about doable, in fact. The tyres will probably be screaming at the end. Wuban, 8 lap old hards. He's going to have a severe pace disadvantage at the early stage, but again, he's going to be quicker than the guys in front because he's got 6 lap newer hards than they do. So we could see almost a concertina effect here within the top 6 or 7. And maybe give us a spicy battle here in what we effectively would call the second stint of this Grand Prix. And then, of course, it's going to be a war of attrition, not just with the cars and the barriers, but within the tyre wears. Those hards are going to drop off at a slower rate, but they're going to have a slower overall pace than the mediums. But we are back on the racing. Mark Wilson very, very close to that safety car, just about timing it to perfection, as quick and as late as he could, or as early as he could go, I should say, and gets away. MKP does get past Wuban into turn 1. That'll be crucial for his charge up through the field. Definitely in a prime position here.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a spinner, the former Cyril Murphy, and Murphy, I think he's lost his front end plates. Oh, how so unfortunate for the Cyril man.
Or CRL man. The tier admin I would go with instead. Murphy.
Tier admin.
Having a brilliant qualifying and then all coming undone there.
Yeah, so showing once again how tricky this track is, more or less. And MKP already showing the pace advantage he has. 2 lap old mediums versus 15 lap old hards. Sorry for fumbling that. Don't seem to be doing myself any favors today. Well, he's got a massive pace advantage. He's already made up 2 positions. Is it 1 position?
One position in Wuban and one position, I suppose you could call it, on the spinning CRL Murphy. So technically, yeah, 2 positions. He needs to get past Ferguson as quick as he can, because the longer he stays behind that, Mark Wilson pulling out a smaller but consistent gap at the front, gaining a 10th here, a 10th there. And he's almost at that 2-second gap already. He's showing some blistering pace on those hards. Another safety car could fall perfectly into his hands to get on the mediums and go to the end. But if not, it might be a case of having to use that pace to cut his way back through the field. MKP having a look on both sides of Ferguson. Ferguson playing very defensively and very well to keep the Alpha Tauri behind. But now it's going to be side by side, almost, not quite, into turn 4. DRS, of course, not yet enabled once again. But you feel as if with maybe a good run out of the corner, though MKP not using any of that ERS, saving it a bit, not trying to rush the battle, waiting for a prime opportunity to get past. Very, very smart play by the man in Alpha Tauri there.
Yeah, and it could prove very. It could bite him back in the arse later on, for lack of a better term. If the mediums start to wear quickly, but we'll still have to wait and see. But Ferguson, yeah, impressive defensive masterclass he's putting on at the moment. Just putting down the pedal at the right moment, at the right time, trying to keep MKP behind, and it's proven very well for him.
He seems to have the pace advantage in a straight line on MKP at the moment. Of course, that'll shift once DRS gets enabled. Mark Wilson, though, getting what could be a costly penalty, 3 second time penalties for free track limit violations. It's again not something we've touched on much, Liam, tonight. There is opportunity to cut the track here.
Absolutely.
Opportunity to cut the track legally by the game's definition, illegally by the steward's definition, and just straight up illegally by the game. Normally a street circuit, there isn't much of that ample opportunity. Tonight there is, and Mark Wilson, one of the first to fall victim to that. But we're on board with MKP. He's going to have DRS here. Wuban's going to have DRS in him. Ferguson could be in a world of hurt here in a second. He's only a 19% ERS as well. He's been draining that battery to try and stay ahead. And I think there's not much.
Oh, and there's no room for MKP to maneuver himself around. He's going to go around the outside. No, he's going to go for the switchback. Ferguson's still ahead, going into the right-hander. Still ahead, going into coming out the right-hander. And Ferguson, once again, putting the defensive masterclass on stage at the moment, shall we say.
I think the only term there is I need to eat some humble pie. I had Ferguson hook, line and sinker for down to P3 there. MKP, easy move, always going to get it done. But what a bit of defensive driving from Ferguson. Keeping it clean, no contact at all, and keeps his P2. MKP going to have another chance here with another DRS zone, using a little bit of battery, but again not quite pulling the gap in close enough. Close but no cigar, as they would say, as Hedgehog goes for a little spin down the back of the 2 Williams, grinding it back in P11, P12 of course. All the drivers that do make it to the finish line. Ghost Angel 1, I was just about to say, are you guaranteed to get points? Wuban, I believe, has just went straight on into the entry to the tunnel, and I was just about to say, if all these 12 drivers can keep it clean, keep it to the end, they're guaranteed at least a point, and one of them's put it in the wall, and the other one's nearly binned off every chance he had.
And there goes MKP now. Round the outside we go, and Ferguson's still there coming into the corner, and MKP finally, after being very patient with Ferguson, gets up into P2. But the battle's not over yet. Ferguson, he'll still have DRS coming into the second DRS zone. And DRS wide open, I don't think it's going to do all too much favours for him, as his tyres are much older. And yeah,
getting a poor exit out of turn 4 there. MKP having the ERS advantage could burn a little bit just to compensate for not having the DRS. And look at that, he's already cutting down from about 1.3, 1.4 to just 7 tenths behind Mark Wilson. He'll now have DRS advantage, and in fact he's cut out the DRS zone from Ferguson. So Ferguson going to be vulnerable to AFL from behind, and maybe even Craigo. Spider Rob having an opportunity to follow through. But we're on board with MKP. He's closed down about 1.1 seconds in just over a sector and a half. And Mark Wilson on those 18-lap old hards is going to be very, very vulnerable, if not this turning zone, probably into turn 1 of the next lap. Further back, in fact, Craigo getting a little bit closer to AFL than AFL's managed to get on Ferguson. Brilliant, brilliant battles going on at the front here so far, Liam. Very reminiscent of Canada. This is what I love. I commentated Tier 4 2 seasons ago. And I love this tier because you see the development. You see drivers that are just starting out league racing turn into a little bit of a chiseled final progress. Mark Wilson is going to be jumping into the pits. He's sensing that these tyres are gone, and Don Ferguson doing it the same. Now every car in front of them pretty much going to be able to go to the end, unless maybe SUFC 11 lap old mediums. I don't know if they'll last the 22 laps he needs to get to the end. But now it's time for him to put the foot down and pace on through. Like I was saying though, they've developed on, they've matured through this season in their racecraft. They are a bit more of the finished project. I mean, the pace they're showing, you wouldn't discount them to maybe make a charge through this field again.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to what they do now. They'd be probably, if I were them, I'd be probably banking on another safety car at this current moment in time. They are kind of out of touch. I mean, you have Hedgehog for company, but after that, you still have another 13 seconds to navigate back to P8 and with the pack.
It's just over a second a lap, roughly, to get to that pack. A safety car right now could, you could argue, disastrous because they've missed the opportunity to pit under the safety car, but everybody in front, they've used a hard, they've used a medium. You only get one set of each. The softs ain't going to last 11 laps. It could really spice it up. Who stays out and goes to the end? Does anybody gamble in the softs? Murphy is still to pit from the start of this race, of course. He's in 19-lap old hards. Currently on board, we're watching the battle for P2 to P5, effectively. The two Ferraris, an Alpine and an Aston Martin, all just within that second mix of each other. It's sort of coming and swaying. The biggest battle, though, between Craigo and AFL. AFL having the DRS pull on Craigo. MKP, though, making that early move on, I believe it was Ferguson, getting clear of Mark Wilson when he pit. He's now pulled out a 4.3 second lead at the front.
Yeah, already showing the pace advantage he has. He's been showing his utter pace dominance over the others. And there goes Hedgehog into the right-hand side of the final corner. Very odd spin there. He must have taken a wide line. That's so unfortunate for him. But yeah, getting back to MKP. I mean, he's been, well, I guess his qualifying wasn't too great, but his race, well, it's turned into something beautiful for him. However, there's still another 10 laps to navigate with those medium tyres. Question is, will he get to the end?
He's in the best chance of the medium runners, of course, discounting Mark Wilson and Ferguson. He's got a little bit more life than the likes of Spyro, Topher and SUFC. However, it's still not going to be plain sailing, and Craigo's hards could swing back and give him a little bit more pace. Good to see plenty of familiar faces in the comments tonight. Of course, we had rotation in earlier. Atomic, back as always. I missed your earlier comments about only hearing me asking about struggling for reserve drivers just with the 17. I don't think, to be fair, we have been. It's we're normally pretty decent. I just believe it is, like we've said a few times, for the length of the race and the amount of maybe casualties we might see, the Singapore effect. It's not really anybody's favourite track. I believe the only person that actually likes this track is a man that's actually came back to CRL this week. Shout out to him, Mr. Steiny Luca. Good friend of mine, good to see. DC, of course, Tier 3 commentator tonight, saying he's here to hopefully be cheered up. There was only 8 finishers in Tier 3 tonight. Just really showing how tricky the track is and can be. And Danielle, and just asking Ferguson if he's been in a higher league, just I suppose That's a compliment about how quick and how steady he's been. Has he been in a higher tier? Ferguson, formerly known as AAF, was around for the initial season of CRL. I believe there's a personal sort of connection, friendship in there with some of the guys that started off the league. He disappeared for season 2, but he's back now and back into racing, which I love to see. A beautiful addition. And speaking of him, he's having a go on CRL Murphy. Mark Wilson getting past him, and in fact Ferguson, a lovely bit of battling. Brilliant to see. Ferguson, Mark Wilson, pretty much, from what I've seen the last 2 weeks, very, very good racecraft, especially amongst drivers that are equal sort of pace to them, or slightly slower. They don't rush things when they're trying to get back through the field. They look for an opportunity and try and work their way through best they can and cleanly as they can. I don't think these guys will be far off tier 3 next year, but in the meantime, they're having a beautiful battle in tier 4 at the minute. It's kind of the 2.0 clean. You missed it last week, you're getting front row seats to it this week. I know it's only for P8 at the moment, but it's a beautiful thing to watch. 2 drivers that have enough respect and enough pace to go and battle like this. It's things you love to see.
Absolutely. Things you really do love to see. I'm sure Isaac Kush is watching, enjoying his this battle so far. But yeah, Ferguson, he sent it a little bit deep at the end of Sector 2. And Mark Wilson taking the position back from Ferguson.
Yeah, a little bit of a deep run out of the second DRS straight, letting Mark Wilson have a switch back on him, I suppose, and get it back up. It's oh,
the barrier.
We need to stop doing this. That's another case of commentators curse tonight, I feel.
No, just pure skill issue from them.
That's it. Now
I'm
you're
sorry.
sounding. You've not just shouted out Izzat Kush, you're now sounding like him. Shout out to Izzat, of course. What a personality he is, and very quick driver that I'm sure a lot of these cars and drivers would love to be. Spider Rob, though, further in the background there, into the wall, on to the start of the second DRS straight. Maybe just missing his braking point. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but that's front wing damage to that Ferrari. 11 lap old mediums for him. Is it front wing damage? Maybe not. Maybe I'm just blind. But I'd be surprised if
Yeah,
it's not.
there could be front wing damage. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe just some that are just invisible.
Definitely by the amount of understeer he seems to be getting. He's definitely got some form of damage. He's used the hards and the mediums. Just about 7 laps to go. I'd expect to see him going in for the probably softs and just chancing it to the end. SUFC also in as well after 14 laps on the mediums. I'm going to ride on board with him, see if there is any wing damage for him, because if not, that to me tells that maybe those mediums just ain't the one when it comes to tyre wear. In fact, he's serving a 5-second penalty, and it is no front wing change after 15 laps, deciding those mediums aren't really fit for purpose anymore, and on to the soft. So something to keep an eye out for the likes of AFL, MKP and Craig.
Oh.
Yellow flag sector 1.
Cyril Murphy into the barrier.
Still going on those starting tyres. I'm assuming front wing damage, so we maybe will see him decide to pit and change. Again, nothing visible. We'll wait and see. 4 drivers now on to those softs. Ferguson, of course, one of them, that unfortunate spin. But it is really looking like it's a tier 4 league, but they're all living in MKP's world. 9 seconds clear at the front. Still gaining despite being on 10 lap old mediums.
Let's talk about a driver that we haven't talked about much about this race. AFL. Just slotted himself in P3 silently, not doing much apart from just keeping on to himself, and there goes Hedgehog.
I believe that is in the pits this time. Although you can never tell this track, it could be the final turn.
No, it's moving. It's moving.
It's in the pits. A little bit of a shame he was on course for 2 points if he made it to the end. Of course, the reserve driver in tonight. The only reserve we could really get again. The Singapore effect, I think you could say. But AFL, yeah, Mr. Armani, as he's otherwise known. Very, very solid driver since he's came into this league. He's never really been able to hit the heights of getting to tier 3, but tier 4 he's always been solid. Mr. Consistent, never one of those star players, never one of them that you see taking wins upon wins and poles upon poles. But he's always there and thereabouts. And we see how that can win you a championship. Look at season number 4. Ryan Mills, I believe, only got 1 pole position the whole season. I think he only got about 3 wins the whole season out of 15 races. He still won the title by constantly being second, third or fourth when his title rivals slipped up. That's the kind of driver AFL is. He doesn't set the lights ablaze, but he is always there. He is Mr. Consistent. He's not a Mr. George Russell Saturday specialist. He's not a Mr. Schumacher world champion winning entrepreneur of everything. He is just Mr. There. He is George Russell. I just said he wasn't George Russell, Liam.
Yeah, he's
oh,
more.
dearie me.
At this current moment in time, he's just kind of not Leclerc, but maybe Mr. Alonso, where he's just there, silent most days, very hot-tempered on those very off days. But he's just there.
He's just there. A big bit
Yes,
of
sir.
this race development, Liam. I'm going to jump in. MKP into the pits for a set of softs, and he's picked himself up a 5-second time penalty.
Oh, and there's
and then
a penalty, there's a
SUFC
safety car.
has retired, and now there is a safety car.
No. That's way too coincidental. I'm calling it. I'm calling it Crashgate. Crashgate's happened here, ladies and gentlemen.
So MKP pitting, getting a 5-second penalty for speeding into the pits. And then the safety car comes out. Everybody's going to be in the pits for a set of softs. If I was MKP, in all honesty, he's got a decent gap to the car behind. He might lose out. In fact, he won't lose out a position to Wuban. You've got the pit again. Put on the softs. Serve that 5-second penalty, because if not, that is going to come back and haunt you by the time we cross the line. You're not going to have any time by the time the safety car comes in to chase up or gain 5 seconds. Wuban, Krigo, AFL and Topher will be rubbing their hands at this. This gives him a chance at the softs. Mark Wilson's going to be pulled in from that gap that he had. And Murphy, maybe some redemption time for the admin. A good solid qualifying, keeping them hard all the way until this safety car. He might have a chance at a good run.
You know what? Props and respect, I guess, to Murphy for sticking it out that long with the hards. It must have been pure hell with them going around this track.
I'm just like, we've only got 9 cars left, and I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but the way, the position and the sort of strategy call we've now got, you've got maybe guys like Craigo, AFL, Topher that aren't the quickest going to be near the front. They're solid, in fact, and I think Topher is coming to the pits. MKP is doing what I maybe advised and coming into the pits for another set of softs and serve that penalty. Just don't give yourself another one near the front. You're going to have the quicker guys like Mark Wilson and Ferguson near the back trying to push on through, and you're just going to have this mix of really everybody, of course, decent drivers, slightly out of position on slightly different age softs. And realistically, I hate to say it, the only man that's in a bad position that probably shouldn't be, based on his pace, is Mark Wilson with that 3-second time penalty.
Sure, Danielle Brewers is going mad and ham at Mark Wilson.
I'm just going to jump in and say again, Spider Rob has just put himself in that prime position. In fact, like 5-second penalty for speeding into the pits.
What
That's
a boy.
not what you want under safety car, Spider Rob. He will. I don't know if the tier 4 driver's listening. And I wouldn't want to maybe advise them or change the course of race with strategy. But if this was me, and I'm sure it'd be the same for you, Liam, you're going to lose out maybe 1 position to Ferguson. In fact, Ferguson is in the pits. You're not going to lose out anything by pitting again and putting on a fresh set of softs and serving that 5-second, are you? So, I would do it. I'm assuming you would do it. But I've got to ask you.
No, I wouldn't. Because once he catches up to the back of the safety car is going to come in. So either way, I think it's not looking good for him.
So you say that, but look at the gap he's got to Ferguson. The safety car's got to make that call generally by the end of the second sector. It can make it just at the end of the third sector if it's a late call. I don't think these cars are going to be catched up in time.
No, they won't. But actually, now that you make that point, yeah,
It is
okay,
what you're
yeah,
losing maybe
I
one
would pit.
position max.
Yeah,
But
I
it
would
means,
pit on this instance.
yeah, anything you game after the restart, you're losing out to Ferguson P9. You can sit at the back and let the corners go on ahead, drive on through. You've not got to worry about building a 5-second gap at the end, and effectively, I think we're probably going to get under racing here with 3, maybe 4 laps, and it's going to be a bit of a sprint. I'm looking around as well. I don't know if it's a graphical glitch. There's a few cars with a red fuel indicator for me. I'm hoping that's just a graphical glitch. We're not going to see a few drivers run out of fuel towards the end of this race.
Does he know?
I mean, it is of course a viable strategy. You under fuel, banking on a safety car. You go into lean mode when you can save fuel. That helps with tyre wear. It helps everything.
Spider Rob's not coming in.
He's not coming in. That could be a costly mistake. I hate to say it because he's going to have 5 seconds added to his time. He's already down near the back. I think that is a mistake from Spider Rob there. He's guaranteed at least P9 if he makes the car home, but at the same time, you might as well.
Not the mistake you want to commit, especially at this late stage of the race. The late stage of the race. Sorry, I was trying to get another few words in, but my English has failed me.
Maybe
We should
maybe do next week's race, and we can do a mix of Squealia and Scottish Gaelic, of course. Maybe our home nation languages. I don't know how much outreach that would have, but it might be a bit more comfortable for us. I mean, I can't speak Gaelic, but I'm sure I can learn it. Just despite.
Oh mate, I'm diabolical.
I know one sentence. It's not really even a sentence. It means it's agus snock, and that means and pig. Now, don't ask me why those are the 2 words I can remember. I just remember snock is quite funny. Just sounds a little bit weird, and it means pig for some reason. So that's your Scottish Gaelic lesson for tonight. Asquelia, of course, Irish Gaelic, not an ounce of knowledge. But safety car is going to be in this lap 28, going on to 29, gives us 3 laps of racing. Mark Wilson with 3-second penalty, Spider Rob with 5-second penalty, and the rest of your drivers with nothing at all, and on relatively fresh soft. So it is going to be a sprint to the finish here, Liam.
And yes, this will be very interesting. A lot of points on the table, a lot of mistakes to be made within these next 2 laps of racing.
3 laps, 29, 30, 31. Come on, simple maths. And just on that note, does that mean we're going to have DRS in the final lap?
Ooh, very interesting take. Oh yeah, and there goes. Sorry, my voice has cracked several times, and Drago is gone already. Drago, who's sped down the floor already. And pretty clean restart from all of them. AP and Mark Wilson between each other, so not a great restart for MKP. Mark Wilson, restart of dreams for him. But again, he's still riding with that 3-second time penalty that he got in the middle of the race. And Mark Wilson now, will he go for a move on Topher? He's very bold when it comes to making moves, but no, he won't go for it this time. And the gaps have seemed to be stabilised for the moment. Scott?
Yeah, very, very stable together. MKP and Wuban coming together on that restart. Wuban hitting the back of MKP and picking up a 5-second penalty for himself. Hopefully, well, it doesn't look like, by the way he's going, any sort of damage, but that's going to be detrimental to his final finishing position. Of course, where he is now, any overtakes would of course count, and he would pick up a position on Mark Wilson. That's now going to be seeded out, and the only person he's looking like he might beat is Spider-Rob, who's also on a 5-second penalty. MKP very close to the rear of Mark Wilson, who's very close to the rear of Topher. Murphy
And there goes
has had an
Murphy.
incident. And Mark Wilson has picked up another 3-second penalty, meaning he is now top of the pops when it comes to penalties. 6 seconds in total. So effectively, he could see himself cascade all the way down from P4 to P9 here, Liam.
Yeah, not the penalty you want to see at this latest stage of a race. But Craigo setting the fastest lap. NKP setting the fastest lap now, as he's already caught up to the back of Mark Wilson and Topher.
Yeah, Mark Wilson going for a move on Topher into turn 1 through free. A little bit of bump-to-bump contact, but nothing looking too malicious there, and Topher does defend. MKP all over the back of them here. And this, I love to see, it's full battery deployment for a lot of these drivers here. Mark Wilson already on 16% after 1 and a bit laps. They are really, really going for it here.
He's desperate, Mark Wilson. So he is, but Topher keeping his cool, trying to consolidate his P3 position, not letting Mark Wilson or anyone else phase him. Hedgehog leaving the session, so probably might have been commentating in his own booth. I don't know, but yeah, very, very exciting opening. Well, last 2 laps, I guess. I would say opening 2 laps as if it was a three lapper. But MKP now going side by side with Mark Wilson. Will he keep the position? No, he won't. Mark Wilson showing no room for MKP. And there goes Mark Wilson. MKP losing out.
3-second time penalty for MKP as well. Of course, he's got 2 seconds over Wuban and 3 seconds over Mark Wilson, but that sort of rules him out from maybe any battle we could have seen with Topher heading into this final lap. And it looks to be, unless anything late drama can go, it could be a Craigo win. A little bit of an outsider here. We never expected him at the start. AFL's just going to be outside of the DRS, but he'll be quite happy with a P2. Murphy coming in with the fastest lap. He's right at the back, 4.4 seconds clear, but showing he has got some pace when he can get it down. And this battle from P3 all the way down to P8 is incredible. Ferguson going for a move on Spider-Rob, of course. He's the only one, he's one of the few not with a penalty, so even though he's P7, he's going to jump up to P4 as things stands. Wuba and MKP going side by side through this final lap. First sector, minor little bits of contact, but nothing to really be scoffed at. Just wheel-to-wheel racing, things we absolutely love to see. And in fact, AFL, I'm going to jump on board with him, because although there might be some good battles behind, he's just within DRS range of Craigo. Could we see a late move for the race lead? He is going to be giving it everything, as I'm sure Craigo is as well. Not quite enough to close in with the DRS, so it looks as if Craigo can take this home unless something untoward does come into play.
And like we said at the very start of this stream, or the race, he's got hands like feet.
He's got hands like feet and pedals like steering wheels. And when I mean really, he's a really good, clean race. His name is, of course, Craigo82. He's going to come round the final 2 bends, cross the line and take provisional win of the CRL Season 7 Singaporean Grand Prix. AFL takes P2 with Topher coming home in P3. Ferguson jumping up to P4 due to penalties. MKP, Murphy, Wuban, I believe Mark Wilson, and then Spider-Rob, your 9 finishers here in Singapore. It's been 2 hours, nearly. An hour and a half, 2 hours since we started qualifying. We're normally home and bedded by now, Liam. What a race this has been.
What a race. A race full of attrition and DNFs and safety cars, but still a very good race towards the end, where we had so many people scrapping it out for the final few positions that were on the table.
Absolutely. Quality battles going on right to the end. Really showing the sort of level of racecraft that is developing in this tier. Things you'd love to see. It is, of course, a win for Krigo, a win for Alpine here in the Singapore Grand Prix. He, of course, finds himself, where does he find himself? P7 in the championship. Only scored 39 points before this round. That's going to jump up to a whopping 69 points after tonight. 39 points from tonight's race. Of course, taking top spot. AFL continues on his charge. He gains some points over Ferguson and MKP to close the gap to the top. Matt Rowney, of course, not here tonight. P4 in the championship standings, will find himself further adrift. And in fact, it's pretty much a nice, solid gap for the top three of MKP, Ferguson and AFL at present as things stand after tonight's race. Big shout out to the 9 drivers that did make it to the end. Spider Rob, Mark Wilson, Wuban, Murphy, MKP, Ferguson, and of course our podium setters of Topher, AFL and Krigo. It's not an easy race to finish, let alone finish in a good position. So a massive, massive congratulations to all of them. And speaking of them, Liam, I did hint at it earlier on. I think it's time we did some driver chats, some driver interviews maybe this season. Do you not think so?
I think it's well deserved. I think they deserve that right to be interviewed.
Absolutely. So of course it was Krigo, just keep me right, Krigo, AFL and Topher. We'll see if any of them want to get in for a quick little chat. Of course though, Liam, we are into part 2 of season 7 after it's about a third away through the season, I must admit, but the mid-season break. I believe it is Jeddah next week is our track.
We are in Jeddah.
Choice. Very, very new track to the F1 calendar and of course the league racing seasons. What's your opinions on it, my friend?
I can't say much.
You can't say much. I take it nothing good. I must admit, I am I'm one of them wheel pay to win persons, you know. I bought a wheel, I do quite like it, just because of the smooth transitions you do get through some of the sectors. After that, another new track, Miami, and then back to a track that might not be making its appearance on the calendar. It's of course France. This might be one of the last seasons it is. It's not been renewed for next season at the moment. We're just working on to get our drivers in for the interview at the moment. Of course, doing things through Discord instead of a PlayStation party does have its little quirks. I'm just giving some permissions to certain members, but hopefully we'll be able to get them all in for a quick little chat very, very soon. And Krigo. Let's see if any of them do want to join for a chat. I believe I've just accidentally shut off the I've hit the wrong button and I've disconnected Mr. Carrig from us. He should hopefully be back now. There we go.
Hello.
I accidentally muted you off there for a second. I clicked the wrong button, but I managed to waffle my way through it. All our podium setters should be able to join. It should be very, very shortly we get them in. Of course, first time this season. It's a little bit different from when we do PlayStation chat audio. A little bit trickier sometimes, the drivers, especially after a long race like that. Your mind's maybe thinking and your heart's pumping after what you've done. It could be pretty much maybe a no-show for a few of them, but I suppose the show will continue on. We've of course got Singapore this week, Tier 1 and Tier 2 kicking off on first day. Miami, Jeddah, sorry, and as well, Liam, a sprint race for that next week in Jeddah. So probably putting this to shame with how long it may actually be. Miami, France, Australia, Abu Dhabi, Italy, Imola, sorry, not Monza. We've already had that. Hungary, Budapest, and then Bahrain for another sprint race. Now, as a driver and a commentator, that second half of the season really gets me excited. Apart from maybe Miami, I don't think there's a track I hate in that second part of the season, or even dislike. They're all pretty nice, pretty good racing tracks. Maybe Budapest can be a bit of a train, but it's a technical track. Every one of them, to me, is going to give us a cracking race in every single tier.
Oh, I hate to interrupt you now, but we have one of our drivers in here, Topher. So you fire
Brilliant
away with the questions.
stuff. Topher, P3 tonight from you. You maybe weren't quite up there with the qualifying performance, but your race performance certainly showed that you are deserved to be on it. I believe as well this might be your first CRL podium. I could be wrong with that, but after quite a long, tricky race, overall you've got to be happy with that result.
Good evening, gents.
Good evening indeed.
Yeah, I am absolutely thrilled to be on the podium. I don't have the pace of, on a straight day, I don't have the pace of many of the guys in this league, but I just wanted to keep it clean, no penalties, and just keep it on track and see where. I knew there'd be carnage tonight. I knew it, so I'm happy with my result. Over the moon.
Certainly did that tonight. I'm just having a little look where you are currently in the championship contention. I can't even.
I was P18.
P18. Of course, yeah, down there at 9 points, you've well and truly jumped up with that. You've got the V.
I've got mainly P12s this season consistently.
Well, of course, a P3 over a P12 you'll take any day. Your first full season as well here in CRL. I remember a few.
It was a very big last lap battle with for P3. That was because I had wing damage, which I got. So the last 1.5 laps, I had wing damage, and I was just trying to defend as best as I could for that podium.
Well, I think even more, all deserved the brilliant drive here for for P3 here in T4 next week. Jeddah, another street circuit.
Yeah.
How are you looking forward to that?
Well, I've raced it once. Last year I was reserved for Tier 4 and I got lapped, so anything's an improvement on that one. So yeah, just looking to improve every week.
Well, I can certainly say you did what most people couldn't do tonight. You finished the race, and that's
I've seen the carnage.
To finish it on the podium, definitely a brilliant result. And I personally don't think it'll be the last time we speak to you, if not this season, in the coming seasons. From what I've seen, a driver on the uptick, and definitely.
I would absolutely look forward to that.
Certainly. Liam, have you got anything to say to our P3 sitter here tonight?
No, I think you've answered all the questions I really wanted to ask. Just congratulations for your P3. Like Scott said, it is your first, so yeah, hopefully more to come.
Yeah, I just want to finish off by giving you two especially a big shout out. Thanks for doing the comms. Because without you two, this wouldn't be possible, and we wouldn't be pushing to get onto the podium. So, thank you guys.
No problem at all, and we're humbled.
Thank you very much, Topher. Really are. It is lovely to hear feedback like that. We'll jump across into P2 tonight. Mr. AFL, Mr. Armani, I've interviewed you and spoke to you quite a few times over the last few seasons.
Yes, mate.
It's another season in the tighter contention. You're up there in that top 3, and a P2 tonight closes the gap in Ferguson and MKP. Is this your season?
I don't know, to be honest. I think the last couple of races I've not really done well, so I needed a big performance tonight. Was a bit annoyed that I couldn't go for the win, but to get a P2 from starting from the back of the grid, I'll take that. Absolutely take that.
Solid points, of course, when you're finishing ahead of the likes of Ferguson and MKP. I'm not sure on the gaps in the standings, but it's roughly around about the 30-point mark with half a season to go. You three in the front pack in prime position. You've said you've had a couple of weeks previously, of course. I believe it was Canada. I'm not quite sure where you finished up. But again,
I think 6th or 7th from Canada.
6th and 7th from Canada. A second in Suzuka, another good result. A second again in Italy. A win in Brazil. You are, and I win in fact in the first 3 rounds. I've said it before. Seasons gone past, you were never this trendsetter. You're never the star player, but you've always been Mr. Consistent, and you're always one to watch out for. Podium again in
Cheers.
Jeddah. Then is that the goal?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I do like that track, so hopefully I can do as best as I can around there on the podium. To get me back in the title race will be needed.
I would say you're more than in the title race at this week, mate. At this stage, mate, and next week, of course, the bonus points of sprint race
Yes,
as
cheers, man.
well. Liam, anything for AFL before I hand things off?
Again, no. You've answered all the questions. Just sat here listening.
You really are. You would be the greatest guest on Question Time, I'm sure. Very, very additional and
Excellent.
insightful. But yeah, to both AFL, Topher, and Craigo, who hasn't joined us for a quick track, congratulations on your podium tonight, lads. A solid drive around a tricky track. And for both of you here, and Craigo included, I don't think it'll be the last time we see you up on that step. But I think it's about time we wrap things up, Liam. It's been a long old night for not just us, for the drivers, and for the poor souls that tune in every week to listen to our Celtic voices. Thank you for joining me back in the comms box tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure and honour to have you alongside me. I look forward to having you back here next week for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And he's just patched me. Thank you for that, Liam. He is. He's just left me hung up there.
Oh, that's. Oh dear.
I
And
poured
that's
my
the
heart
stream
out.
gone, yeah?
No, the streams were still going. I'm just thanking you. I was hoping you would come in and
Oh.
say something.
Oh no, no.
Did you
I'm
never
just
listen to
here
me and
listening.
Jamie last season? We used to have a cuddle and everything at the end of every stream.
You know how I like to play it. I'm very hard to get, you know.
But yes, thank you to my co-commentator, CRL Stroll, or FRA Liam, or Tentin Liam, whatever you want to call him. I like to call him Mr. Carrig, by his government name. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you to all our Tier 4 drivers, including our reserve, our one and only reserve, Hedgehog 11, for making the 17 driver grid. And all I can say is tune back in on Thursday evening, 7:30 BST. You will have the lovely Cool Dude Boy, aka Jonathan, taking you through Tier 2. And the man, the myth, the absolute legend that is Jamie Indigo, and I believe CRL Fandango, taking you through Tier 1 at 8:30 BST. But if that's not your cup of tea, you can always join Mr. Carrig and myself next Monday as we take you around the streets of Jeddah and F1's newest circuit, if you discount Miami, next week. Same time, same place on the CRL channel. I've been CRL Freefall, aka Scotty Freefall, aka Scott Dodds, Papa Dodds, whatever you want to call me. Have a wonderful evening.